I am Alvin Cowan, your host, actor, writer, podcaster, and washed-up quarterback, here to cover all things for your soon-to-be Big 12 champs, the little old Baylor Bears from Waco, Texas. It's week 2. Tough loss from Auburn. I'm still not over it. But the Bears face another test, a road game. Going on the road, number 17 SMU, Saturday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time on the CW. Find that interesting, the CW broadcasting college football. Anyway, this isn't just another early season bounce back. It's deep into rivalry territory, playing the Mustangs, who boost momentum and are rated in the top 25, while we are not. But before we dive into it, be sure to subscribe to our show to get all the latest from us, as well as checking me out on social media at the Alvin Cowan on all the socials, as well as YouTube. Got a special guest coming. Got a really cool interview coming for you guys. Really excited about it. Not sure when we're going to drop that. Probably sometime in the next couple weeks. But be sure to connect, subscribe to that YouTube channel for that interview. Okay, let's get into it. Not sure I really need to tell you guys who SMU is. I think you already know who SMU is, but just a little primer on the game. Their head coach, Rhett Lashley, in his third season leading the Mustangs, posted a 30-12 mark over his career. He led them to the CFP last year, where they lost 38-10 at Penn State in the first round. Hell of a football game. Difficult test, I thought, for the SMU Mustangs to go into Happy Valley in a playoff game. Last time these two teams played was in 2016, when the Bears were the ones ranked in the top 25 and routed SMU 40-13 at McLean. After recovering from a pair of early Mustang field goals, they scored 26 unanswered points over the second and third quarters, eventually winning 40-13, as I mentioned. SMU comes into this matchup with the Bears after a dominating opening season win over East Texas A&M on Saturday in Dallas. If they had not dominated East Texas A&M, I would be a little bit concerned for the Mustangs. That said, 400 yards of total offense, including 140 rushing, 260 passing, holding. Is it really holding East Texas A&M to 351 yards with 107 rushing and 244 passing? That's a striking number to me, folks. 351 yards of offense by East Texas A&M against SMU Mustangs? QB Kevin Jennings, a dark horse Heisman candidate, 22 for 30 with 2 scores. Chris Johnson was the running back, 44 yards on 6 carries with a TD. TJ Harden rushed 8 times for 42 yards. Blah, 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 blah. Who cares? They played no one. SMU is a 3-point favorite and has won 15 of its last 16 games at home under Coach Lashley. So, what's the narrative? Baylor is 0-1. This is more than a football game. Initially, when I went through the schedule, I penciled this in as a loss. Now, I think it becomes a must-win. Do we need this game for our record? No, not really. Our goal now needs to be winning the Big 12. By the way, SMU is not in the Big 12. But I still like us to do that. Utah looked good the other day against UCLA. Of course, UCLA might be the brothers of the blind, so who knows? Do we need this for perception? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. After we lost to Auburn, who I still think makes some noise in the SEC, they play Georgia and OU and A&M that have bigger talent gaps than them. In other words, more talent on their roster, in my opinion. But after seeing South Carolina, the SEC is interesting this year. Interesting. I digress. But if we lose to SMU too, we'd have to run the table in the Big 12. We'd have to get in as the Big 12 representative to the CFP. Because you lose to SMU and you lose to Auburn, you're not getting in as an at-large. So maybe, yeah, on perception, we need to win this game. Maybe. But why do we really need to win this game? We're talking again about the mentality of a team. I mentioned it in the postmortem against Auburn. What kind of toughness does this team have? Who are we going to be this year? There's that Saban speech. You guys may have seen it on Twitter or online where he defines mental toughness as what does it take to break you? I'll stop. I can't help but make fun of Saban's sorry. He tells a story about him down on the beach somewhere in Alabama putting hurricane windows on his beach house because, that's what I picture Nick Saban doing in the offseason. And he's got this dude installing windows, and I just love this. This is such a Saban question, He's hanging out on his beach house. He's got this dude installing hurricane windows, and he's just watching him, figuring out what the hell the guy's doing. And he says, how do you know that those windows are better than the other windows? And the guy answers him by saying, what does it take to break them? And Nick Saban, being the genius that he is, what does it take to break you? That's what he defines as mental toughness. What does it take to break your focus, to give in, to quit when you're tired? Sorry, I promise I'm done. Our backs are against the wall. What does it take to break this team? Can they be broken in week 2 on the road in Dallas in a high-level matchup against a rival? Keys to the game. Can we win the turnover battle? SMU screwed up once last week and paid for it. Baylor must avoid mistakes in flip field position. Sawyer has to take care of the ball. Our offense has to take care of the ball. And like I said in our postmortem, if they score, we have to come out and get a first down. If not 2. That's the defensive equivalent of a turnover. When they score, we have to move the ball, give our defense some rest. Tackle with discipline. I'll go into this a little bit later, but we missed tackles all over the field last week. It was our undoing in week 1. And Jennings is a dancer in the pocket. He can make things happen. We have to make tackles, get stops on third down, and get off the field. Control the tempo. Got to get first downs outside the 20s. This is a game of strengths. This is Baylor's offense against SMU's offense. Offensively, we have to shore up both our run fit and our explosive prevention. Defensively, we have to shore up our run fit and our explosive prevention. We can't let them have explosive plays, and we got to tackle. So when we're on offense, Sawyer thrived in the passing game, 419 yards per game in week 1. Hit deep shots to Trigg and Wilson, and the team increased the tempo from last year, 22.1 seconds per play versus 24.1 seconds per play last season. That's not a huge difference, but 2 seconds is, a handful of plays over the course of a game. SMU gave up 351 yards per game, including 244 pass yards to the School of the Blind, Texas A&M, West Texas A&M, and 140 yards per game on the ground. There will be opportunities in the offense. SMU struggled against deep balls in week 1. I know. I said I hated our short yardage plan last week. And I do. And frankly, I do. I think we have to establish an identity. That was what was lacking for me against Auburn. Who are we on offense? In week 1, it's tough. It's tough to define who you are. You've been playing against scout team guys. You've been practicing for God knows how long. It's tough to really know what you're good at. In fact, my boy, Kenny Dillingham, I know he's a rival. I just like myself some Kenny Dillingham. What can I say? I love me some Kenny. He said he hates the early season for precisely that reason. You don't know who you are. It's hard to get a feel for who you are, what to call. It's hard to trust your players to execute. My boy, Kenny Dillingham, my boy. So we have to define it. Okay, Coach Spav, if we're going to take shots on short yardage, so be it. Let's do it. I'll roll with you. But this week, you got to show me that that's our identity. Because if we don't hit some of them, If we don't hit some of those shots on 3rd and 2 and 4th and 1 when we're throwing the ball 30 yards downfield, if we don't hit them, then that's just us as a coaching staff not adjusting to what our players do well. And then that becomes something else. I hate to say it, bad coaching. Player spotlight from last week. Cole Wilson graded out as the top player with an 84.8 grade. Kobe Prentice was 76.9 and Bryson Washington at 68.1. As I mentioned, Sawyer's got to avoid the turnovers. SMU's defense picked off East Texas A&M, School of the Blind, for TDs. He's got to hit at least 50% of those deep balls. And if that's going to be our identity, then we got to continue to do that throughout the season. I had Sawyer as a dark horse Heisman candidate. Can he do that? Absolutely. But he's going to have to put on a cape and become freaking Superman. I thought the O-line last week did an excellent job giving him time. We held Keldrick Falk, who's probably a first-round draft pick, to a pretty quiet night. He got a sack late in the game. Outside of that, we didn't really hear Keldrick Falk's name. That's a hell of a job by the offensive line. Sawyer might have to use his legs more. We can't. That's that cape thing. That's that becoming Superman thing. He was too much in the pocket. We got to use his legs and keep them honest on defense. If you could just turn your back and play coverage on the defensive side of the ball, that's a huge advantage. And Sawyer's too good for us to do that. Yeah, I hear you. I don't want him to get hurt either. But the guy's got to be smart. Run the ball when it's there. Josh Cameron, where was he last week? We got to get him involved early and often. The same can be said with Bryson Washington and my new boy, Trigg. Those three guys are dudes. If I'm calling the script, those three are touching the ball on the first 3 plays. Don't get cute. Trigg, Washington, Cameron, Washington, Trigg. I'm fired up today. So I got a little story for you from the old coaching days. First year out of school. I coached at a little school in Los Angeles. I was a head football coach there for a little while. We played 8-man for the first few years I was there, so that gives you an idea. And we had this player. He was a dude. His name was Charles Dawson. He ended up playing defensive back at UCLA. And he was our guy. You know, we had some decent players. It was our first year playing 11-man football, but Charles was the guy, right? Everybody's got a guy. Charles was ours. And, you know, kids play both ways, the whole thing. So I started Charles at slot because we had a pretty decent quarterback and some, you know, decent skill outside of him. And I thought, hey, like, you know, he's playing DB, he's, you know, running all over fields, playing special teams, barely taking a play off. Let's, you know, when he's not running a route, let's give him some rest. And we got him the ball like 5 times during the course of the first game. Now we won that game, but I got called in the office and, you know, my athletic director sat me down. He's like, you know, the athletic director was a basketball guy. He's like, you know, on the basketball court, when we got a dude, we give him the ball. And it was a simple lesson, right? You would think you got a dude, give him the ball, right? And as a guy who's been down that road, granted at low-level high school football, but, you know, as a coach, you want to out-scheme. You want to out-strategize. You're thinking about, if I establish Prentice or if I establish Wilson, then, you know, it'll open things up. Well, it didn't. Keep it simple. Give those guys the freaking football. The next week, I gave him 25 carries and we waxed them. Anyway, got to make it simple for your playmakers, at least early. You can scheme them. You can do all your run and shoot and air raid stuff later on in the football game, but get Cameron, Trigg, my boy Trigg, and Washington the football. When we're on defense, Kevin Jennings is a dude. He's legit. He's a dual threat kid, 260 yards passing, 2 TDs, a pick, flashed as a runner against East Texas A&M School of the Blind. And guess what? That's strength on strength in the pass game, right? Our guys last week showed up against a great Auburn wide receiver core. Now, we got our asses kicked, in the run game. But the top, let's see, Our top graded defenders in week 1 were all in the secondary. Cornerback Tevin Williams, 70.2. Safety Devin Bobby, 70.1. Caden Jenkins. Safety Jacob Redding. It's good and bad. We had 7 of 10 secondary players grade out in the top 10. Or 7 of the 10 players in the top 10 were secondary. I don't know what that says. Could be good, could be bad. We had 2 edges and a linebacker. But if I'm looking at the game from last week and I'm SMU, I am making you defend the run. I'm forcing you to defend the run because you haven't shown me you can do it. I don't need to throw the football against a very good secondary. They adjusted their tempo from 24.5 seconds per play to 20 seconds per play in week 1. Multiple backs forcing missed tackles. As I mentioned, run the ball if I'm SMU. So what do we got to do? Baylor missed 22 tackles last week. We got to get their backs on the ground. To that end, I'm going to be a little critical. Texas A&M transfer Samu Tuamanapepe. That was better, right? That was better in the past weeks. Yeah, I thought so too. He played just 7 snaps in week 1. FIU transfer and tackling machine Travion Barnes played 15 snaps. What are we doing? What are we doing? Listen, I am not there every day at practice. I'm not at practice. I'm not in the meetings. I generally speaking think too many idiots like me have too many opinions based on what's going on game day. You see a fraction of the week. You see 1/7 of the week for 3 hours and you think you know better than a bunch of coaches who are professionally paid very well to do a job and evaluate the players in practice over the course of an offseason, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we cannot repeat last week. And Aranda knows it. He talked about it this week. He said the most disappointing thing, the thing that he was most disappointed in from the Auburn game was the tackling. He said there needs to be violence and intentionality. Amen, Dave. Amen. So this goes back to who are we going to be? Aranda knows it's an attitude. Do we have it? We'll find out this week. I don't know if you noticed. But Jackie Marshall was listed on the 2 deep. He was listed. They're saying it's a high ankle sprain. Aranda says day to day. We'll call it questionable for Saturday. And I'll be honest, I don't love a guy who's 75% going against Kevin Jennings on the D-line. I really don't. Lane integrity is key when you have a rushing quarterback, and we got eaten alive by Jackson Arnold last week. Are we better off 100% with another guy? Maybe. I don't know. We'll have to see where Jackie Marshall is on Saturday. I respect wanting to go. I respect that. And we do get Carl Williams back, so that's good. I still believe in this team. Getting beat at your house at night with a drone show, don't forget the drone show, is no joke. If I'm Coach Aranda, I'm framing this game as do or die. What's our identity? Now, that can be a poison pill. You frame a game like that, you put the context like that on your players and you lose, then your identity is that of a loser. But I got to be honest, I think it's called for. I'm not, 5-alarm fire or whatever the saying is. I'm not quite there. It's a non-conference rivalry game, week 2. But this is about as tough as it gets. And for me, this is a statement weekend. Who is Baylor football in 2025 going to be? And maybe one way or another, you lose this game, maybe you can twist the mentality of the team to reframe to focus on winning the Big 12 afterwards. That's a tough road. If you lost 2 in a row, that's tough. Not going to lie. But ultimately, in the big scheme of things, this is a pride game. This is a mentality game. And I think we have to approach it accordingly. You need a W. 1-1 is a lot better than 0-2, stating the obvious. Captain Obvious. So for me, I'm going to go with the Bears. And I may be fanning out and I may be hoping that they win the football game, but I'm going to go with a gritty 31-28 road game victory. Discipline, tempo, handful of explosive plays. That may be my heart talking, not my head. I don't know. I'm hopeful. Let's go do it. That's it for me this week. I'll be back with some post-game thoughts on like Sunday-ish. And like I said, we got a very special guest, great guest coming soon. More on that. And if I haven't told you guys before, I just wanted to tell all of you out there, thank you for listening. It really does mean the world to me. We started this thing up a few months ago, and I've really enjoyed doing it. I hope the Bears have a great season, but it just means the world to me that all of you guys are out there listening. And please share it with your friends, your other Baylor fans. Spread the word for me. I'd really appreciate it. Anyway, that's it for this week. Believe in Baylor. Let's go. Sick 'em!